So the blockchain, again, this is intro. I'm a little hesitant because I know you guys already know quite a bit of things. So let me just start at the very beginning. So the blockchain, okay, blockchain is to Bitcoin, right? What the engine is to Ford. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So the reason I cover this with people is because I have people all the time go, oh shit, American Express is starting to use blockchain system. I should go buy Bitcoin. It has nothing to do with each other. Okay, and I want to make sure that distinction is very clear. The blockchain is simply the programming and the system by which Bitcoin exists. The blockchain can be used for anything. We've got a county in, I want to say just south of Atlanta. It's been a while since I've heard about it. That is taking the blockchain and moving it over to using it to do tax records, which I think is really interesting. Somebody put on Twitter the other day that essentially if you just take out the trustlessness and the immutability, you basically have a SQL database. So yeah, it's basically, blockchain is simply a ledger system that keeps track of changes. In this case of Bitcoin, we are keeping track of financial changes. So what is a blockchain on the basic system? A blockchain, and I coined this phrase, I'm very happy with this phrase. A blockchain is simply a series of files where the value of the previous file is used in determining the next file. Does that make sense? So they're chained together based on the value of the last file. So what's in each file, right? In the case of Bitcoin, it's the header. So let's say number A, header A, right? And we got transactions, right? So he sends it to him, he sends it to her, she sends it back, and all these have a mathematical value at the end of them, right? They're all mathematically based. So, in a very basic kind of way, again, basic kind of way, each file has a header, which is the value of the file before, obviously except for the Genesis file, Genesis block, the very first block we made. Obviously has no header on it. Math all the way through the transactions, and then this right here is the hash that the miners are trying to figure out. That's what mining does. Mining is a two-handed operation. I'm jumping a bit from my normal class again because I assume you guys have seen this already. So in a mining system, the miners on the left hand are going, oh, does this guy over here, does he have 3 Bitcoin to send, right? So the left hand is over here figuring out through the beginning of the blockchain, taking that account and going, okay, do they have +3, -2, +4, -3, whatever. Do they have 3 at the end they can send? If it's okay, confirmed, good. The right hand is going, what's the hash that ties these numbers together based on the equation that I have? The equation, and this is where my math fails, the equation is written in such a way to make this hash down at the end for the next header of the next file and the end header of this, or the end footer of this file. The equation is written in such a way that it is easier to guess numbers and try it than it is to actually backwards the equation. So that's where our strength comes from. That's where the proof of work comes from. That's why when you hear, we've got, last I checked, 7.5 billion hashes per second, and it still takes us around 600 seconds to figure out the answer to this equation, it tells you how hard that equation is. But that number there is a number that adds, in a sense, this number and ties all these numbers together. That's where our immutability comes from. That's why you can't change things. Because if I go in here and I say, okay, well let's say this number here is 14. It's much bigger than that. We start with 14. Then I got a 28, right? 28 starts the next one. Then I got a 9, whatever. If I just change even the order of those two in a block, it will dramatically change this number here. Now we got a 418. Does that make sense? And now I know from that point forward, somebody screwed with this block because nothing else adds up from that point forward. There's our immutability. Our inability to change things. And there's our mathematical tie-in that makes us all work. This is why it's trustless. You don't have to trust me that I stored the right number. Your math can figure it out in a matter of seconds. That's why it's trustless. That's why nobody has to be trusted in the system. Because the math makes it impossible to change. Now, having said that, there is something in the system called a 51% attack. Somebody just had a 51% attack. Who was it? Bitcoin Gold. Bitcoin Gold just had a 51% attack. Where what they did was they got enough hashing power. These small networks can do it. We're alluding to why people say the bigger the mining pool, the more secure Bitcoin is. Okay? Because if it takes us 7.5 billion calculations per second, and it takes us an average of 600 seconds to figure out that number, and you want to change this block and therefore change that number and become the bigger chain, if you want to calculate ahead of us, you've got to do 3.75 billion calculations per second to have a 50% chance of getting a block ahead of us. And if you go back 5 blocks, you better have a lot more than 50-50 chance you're going to make a bigger block than us or a bigger chain than us if you're going to have any hope of screwing our system. Okay? So that's what they're talking about, 51% attack, or whatever 51% is of 7.5. I guess it'd be 4.5 billion, something like that. I don't know. No. 3.82. Anyway, doesn't matter. This is why I'm computer tech and not a mathematician. My point is that they have the control over the violence, they have control over the money. They tell me what the inflation rate is going to be, how much more money they're going to print, what's the interest rate going to be, what are they going to charge me to use my country's money, how much is my parking fine. Keep it in mind, better not speed, because we're going to take money out of your wallet. Again, right or wrong, it's how it works. So if you figure that they control violence and they control money, and if you live in a stable country, they control you more through money than violence, and an unstable country more through violence than money, then you see Bitcoin as existing outside of the banking and government systems, and you start seeing, okay, this is, again, as Americans, we have a little trouble wrapping our head around this. We have a good country here. We can complain about the government all we want, but we're not getting thrown in jail and beaten. You know what I mean? It's a pretty decent system. We've got a lot of freedoms a lot of people don't have. But if you go, okay, if I live in a stable country and I want more control of my life, Bitcoin is the only way I can get it without bloodshed. That's to me what Bitcoin is. It's freedom. If you want to live outside the system, you have that option. I happen to be skidding a line between both of them. And when I moved to the Philippines, probably a lot more on the line of living on my own. So anyway, so what is, one of the things I try and go over with people is, in order to secure yourself, people have a problem, and I'm sure you run into this. I always had this problem with my computer business. When I would tell people, I would ask them, what is your computer doing? What do you mean? Is it broken? What's it doing? Nothing. It's always nothing. And people have a problem with, technicians don't, but people have a problem with absolute terms. Everything, nothing, and always to them does not mean the same thing as it does to reality. So they always go nothing. I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's not even turning on. Oh, no, I get a light. Well, that's literally not the definition of nothing, okay? You know what I'm talking about. What's it doing? Nothing. What's that beeping? Oh, well, it's doing that. You know, thanks. So you have these people and you tell them, okay, well, you have a system here where you have complete and absolute total control over your money. I can put money in places and no one knows I did it. I can store it in places and no one knows it's there. I can put $1 million on my cell phone and you'd never find it. I have complete control over my money, and if done right, I have more security in my cell phone than they have at the bank. Promise you that, if done correctly. But people have problems with complete and always and never. And what do you mean beeping is something? I thought I was doing nothing. And when I tell them, I said, look, I can't design a system where you have complete and 100% total autonomy of your money and a system where I can get your money back if you screw up. It doesn't work that way. You either want it all or you want someone else to take care of you. That's the way I always word it. You want someone to pat your back. Or, yeah. But anyway, that's just me. So anyway, that is philosophically what is Bitcoin. I don't normally go with anybody.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so we've got the Bitcoin network, right? And we've got the Lightning Network.
There's only a couple of coins that use a Lightning network, right?
Well, it's only Bitcoin that uses a Lightning Network, but there's only a few merchants that are on it right now. We're still in beta.
Okay.
Like in fact, we just released mainnet to beta 4 weeks ago, I think.
Okay.
I thought it was just Litecoin that was on the Lightning Network.
No, Litecoin doesn't have a Lightning Network. They started SegWit first. They did SegWit before us.
I did see it. I thought I saw a couple of coins saying that they were going to be on the Lightning.
On the Lightning Network, how would they do that?
I don't know.
Unless they're developing their own.
Maybe they're developing.
Because ours isn't even carrying Bitcoin really that much. We've got maybe 20 Bitcoins in the entire Lightning Network right now, just for testing. I've got I am 0.05 of a Bitcoin in the Lightning Network. That's what I tied up in there the other day. So what is the Bitcoin? Obviously, Bitcoin is 10 minutes for a block, right? It's the actual, let's call it actual currency. In other words, when I move things on the Bitcoin network, I am moving Bitcoin. Let's see. As far as we're concerned, that's really, decentralized. That's going to be important. Lightning Network isn't centralized, but pseudo kind of hub and spoke kind of situation. So when we have a network here, the Bitcoin network, right? We've got all these little nodes on it, and they all talk to each other, right? Oh wait, whatever. You follow me, right? So they're all talking to each other. Lightning Network is a peer-to-peer. You can open channels up if you have money. Transaction time is roughly 25 to 60 milliseconds. Cost varies. But let's say somewhere between, at least right now, 6 cents to, let's say 20, in that range, right? So over here, we're roughly 1 cent or less per transaction. And over here, we're moving promises, contracts. Okay? So what do I mean by that? The Lightning Network is, in essence, a prepaid bar tab. Okay? If I go into, let me think about this analogy, make sure it's really
It's like a credit card.
essentially, but prepaid. You only have so much you can use. And if you hold, like I transfer, let's say I transfer 0.05 Bitcoin to the network. What I've done is I've transferred, I'm not going to say 0.05 every time, let's just say 5. It's easier to say. So I transferred 5 Bitcoin that I own to the Lightning Network. These have been confirmed, verified, and they are in the system. They take the same amount of time to transfer the Lightning Network as they do in the network because I'm just transferring them to a node that is both. I'm locking those 5 coins up in a Bitcoin node that is attached to the Lightning Network. So it's not really like a separate network, but it is a separate network. It runs on top of the Bitcoin network because the nodes who support Lightning support both. Okay? However, the Lightning Network nodes don't act as a full Bitcoin node. They're simply just a repository. So it's not really a Bitcoin node, but obviously they're attached to the Bitcoin network. So I send 5 Bitcoin over there. Now those things are accounted for, they are confirmed, they are legitimate, they are true. And somebody wants to spend money. I'm on the Lightning Network. Okay? They can I can open up a channel with someone else. They can send me Bitcoin as a promise or a contract. Because again, we're just transferring slips of paper that say, oh, I own 0.1, here's verification over here. I'm going to give you a certificate for 0.1 that'll get you the 0.1 on the Bitcoin network down the road. So I can send 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, all these different people, and people can send me 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1 back. And every once in a while, I can take this whole stack of pluses and minuses, and I can sync it up with the Bitcoin network and get my money back, whatever my new balance is. Make sense? And every time we transmit, because they're already confirmed, and we're just transferring certificates, okay? There's no confirmation time. It's already there, and it's direct. It's not us going out to, I'm not sending every coffee purchase to 12,000 nodes on the internet, okay? I'm sending it direct to the place that wants it and the guy that wants the coffee. That's it. And mathematically, it works. We can do, over here, as it sits right now, we're at about 8,600 transactions per 10 minutes, per block, okay? 84, 86, something like that. Last estimation, we could do 3.5 million per second. That's way down the line. And keep in mind, when your network looks like this, okay, and it's got, you know, and there might be one channel here, and then you got one guy over here, and he may have one over here, may have one over here, so you gotta go him to there, and it's very, very hub and spoke, okay? That 3.5 million per second is based on the total. I mean, you and I sitting there, we're not doing 3.5 million per second. We couldn't do 3.5. We're based on everything that go in the network. And to keep in mind, the 3.5 million per second is really based on the idea that we're gonna have thousands and thousands of nodes and everybody's using it and you know, that kind of thing. But it could. I mean, we could conceivably get that big. What happened prior to that? Prior to that, we had South Korea, Canada, not a major financial world power, but let's just say America, China, either Japan or Australia. That's where my memory starts to get fuzzy. All came out the same 6-day period saying we are going to start cracking down on ICOs. We are going to start investigating ERC-20 tokens. Okay, these projects that are going on that are unregulated securities. We're going to start hitting them. What happens a week later? That news starts to disseminate. My particular theory was that these ICOs, these ERC-20 token projects that had tons of money they were holding on to, they don't want to convert those currencies into local currencies, okay, for a lot of reasons. So what do they have? They have this massive stash of Ethereum. And someone comes up to you and goes, hey, I'm getting ready to stick my hand up your rear end and figure out what you ate for dinner yesterday. What do? You sell. You sell everything you got. You get all the cash you can before they start taking things from you. They start shutting you down, right? And that's when we saw a lot of ICOs go out of business too. All of a sudden they start stopping answering the phone, okay? So a lot of those people got nervous and they caused a massive sell-off in Ethereum. And because I don't ever see another massive ICO market coming up, because now we're getting into regulation, realize 90-something% of those ICOs were scams.
Yeah.
Those aren't going to happen in regulation, at least not to the level we had before.
Yeah.
So how much money is going to flow back in? I don't think we're ever going to see Ethereum like we saw it before, or at least not for a very, very, very long time. Really, really neat. So it's got this, it's kind of like not a clamshell design, but where they slide open, you know, whatever that is. And then you can slide your letters in there for your 12, 18, or 24 word seed. You lock it in place, you can close it up, and you can put a padlock on it if you want. What's nice is the thing is like $90, and it's fireproof. I have people all the time say, oh, no. And they're so proud of themselves, and God, I hate myself for having to be that kind of guy. But they always go, oh, no, I put it on a piece of paper and I put it in my fireproof safe. You know that's only good to a certain temp for a certain amount of time, right? Then everything inside of it combusts. Like that's what a fireproof safe is, just fire resistant. So what I did is I took a crypto steel wallet. I have a treasure device. We all know what that is, right? It's got a 24-word seed. I have a treasure device that has a 24-word seed. I put half of it on the crypto steel, send it to someone in Florida, and I put the other half on a crypto steel and send it to someone in Texas. That treasure device has myself, my aunt, used to be my grandmother's, and my cousin's money on it. My aunt has half, my cousin has half. If something happens to me, they can do the old Zelda, put it together and figure out how to get the money. My cousin actually works for the NSA through the Navy, and he's the one helping me. That's why I have a lightning node in Texas.
Yeah.
So he knows what to do and he can take care of it, and I obviously trust him because we're all managing each other's crypto funds right now. But that right there, I think, is the best way to do it. If you have that in a safety deposit box, understand, if they can open up your safety deposit box because they got a subpoena, they can open it up without you there. I don't keep that 24-word seed in any one place. It's always in multiple pieces.
I see.
But again, the crypto steel, like, I thought about putting my seed inside the crypto steel and then putting it in the new sidewalk that I'm pouring. Who would know it was there? I don't know, some little ideas like that. So you know that if you really need to. And here's what's great about that, is that you can then in turn put instructions for your wallet into your estate planning documents. So your kids don't have to know about it. Something happens to you, they pull the estate docs, there's the instructions on how to at least find the crypto steel or put it back together, who to contact, follow me. And you've got this kind of physical security to your electronic money. So anyway, I could talk about them all day, and I highly, highly recommend those. In other words, they're taking money from people coming in, giving it to people who already got in to make it look like this is actually legitimate. Here's the thing, I firmly believe, I could be wrong, I could be wrong. I am rarely wrong, except when I got married. But I firmly believe in my heart of hearts that Big Club is a subsidized Ponzi scheme. They are subsidized. And I would love to know, I actually thought about buying into it just to see how it works, you know, just to have firsthand evidence, because anyone who's in it, no one's going to tell you that Scientology is fake, okay? So if they're in it, they're not going to come tell me, oh yeah, this thing's screwed up, you were totally right, I should have listened to you. Nobody's going to say that. So I would like to know, now that Bitcoin has taken a hit, how are their payouts? But here's the crazy thing, like even I asked that guy, was the guy sitting next to you, he was in the back with us, it was the older guy up front. I asked him both, I said, look, I just want to know, have you ever received a payment from them? And what did they say? Oh yeah, my Big Club account, I received all sorts. No. Have you ever actually gotten something from them? Not, I can have an account right now that says, oh, you've got $500 with me. You've got 30 Wangwus, right? And I'm going to add 30 more Wangwus every day. But until I give you a car for that, you haven't gotten anything.
Right.
And that's what I can't get out of these Big Club guys. Well, no, I'm never actually, I just keep reinvesting. Of course you do. And tell me how it's going to work at the end when everyone goes run to the bank. Show me something, balance sheet, third-party audit. Let's say third-party audit, I can make up a balance sheet in about 10 minutes. Something that proves that you have the assets you are claiming you are internally crediting to people. That's what I want to see. Low, no risk, high reward. That's pretty obvious, right? No real business. That's why I think they are a subsidized Ponzi. Because the numbers they are claiming to pay out do not line up with their publicly known size of the Bitcoin pool, or Bitcoin mining pool. So unless there's a revenue stream that for some reason they just feel like not telling us about, they're not making the money they're claiming they're crediting. That's my point. Consistent returns. This is a big one. God, I do not write for a living. That's a good thing. So consistent returns, that's a big one. If they're promising you like, man, you're always going to get 15%, that is bullshit. There is no market in the world that's consistent. Other than like municipal bonds. Maybe. And even some cities go out of business or they go bankrupt on them. So that still happens. Yeah, nothing is guaranteed, nothing is forever. So, I like this one. That's a huge one. That's why when you ask them, what exactly does that word mean? Huh? Oh, well, I heard somebody say it. I get that a lot too. Why? I heard somebody, yeah, okay, whatever, shut up. So, buzzwords. God, I love that one because that's the easiest one to catch them in. I always look at them and go, yeah, I guess you just read magazines. I don't know where that spewing of verbal diarrhea came from, but it's nice to hear that somebody can regurgitate things they read somewhere. Because that's all it is. It's all just buzzwords. And the more buzzwords they put in there, the less I trust them. That's why I didn't like IOTA. That's why I did not invest in IOTA. Because all I found, I'm not going to say it's all it was. I'm saying all I found were buzzwords, and no one, here's my biggest thing. Here's a Reddit term for you. Can you explain it like I'm 10? how your business works. Can you explain it like I'm 10? If I ask you right now, how's your business work, you explain to me like I'm 10 years old. Because you know it, because you understand it, because it's real, it's not made up. You didn't pull it out, okay? I always ask them, explain to me how you're making money like I'm 10 years old. If you can't do that, you're probably full of shit. Or you're doing something with quantum mechanics, I can't understand that shit anyway. So one of the two is going on. But that kind of ties in with the buzzwords. If you're using big words, you're trying to confuse me. So that's the biggest thing I look at. If you're trying to confuse me, you're hiding something. Simple as that. And like I said, IOTA, I couldn't find a single video on IOTA that tried, they would explain how their, what do they call that? Distributed something algorithm, I don't know. It was basically just polishing a turd. So, whatever they call it, distributed something algorithm, I remember exactly what they said. Anyway, when I finally dug, it was just a distributed blockchain. That's all it was. But the fact that you had to use fancy words, okay, to try and tell me what it was, means it doesn't work. It can't work. If it did work, you would explain it in a way that I could prove. But because you're using big words, you're trying to make it to where I can't prove you wrong. Because it doesn't work. Yeah. And it doesn't work. And it still doesn't work. So, no. All my friends were all big on IOTA. I stepped out. They made some money because a couple of them sold on the high end, but it doesn't matter. I'm looking for 5 to 10 year holds. I can't predict emotion. Mars is in Aquarius. Maybe I can do that, I don't know. A technical analysis joke. It's not a great one. I can't always hit a home run. But anyway, I can't do technical analysis. I can't predict emotion. So I look for 5 to 10 year returns on everything.